CeeLo, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, man. I guess if that's the case, then Thursday's always a good day, right?
That's right. It's the best day of the week, in case you did not get the memo. We got the memo this morning that Coach Former is out of surgery. There was a procedure done this morning. A statement by his family that he's doing well and is going to be in the hospital for a couple of days. What insight, what information can you share with us about where Coach Former is from a health standpoint?
Yeah, well, I would say that I sure hope, and I know I speak for the volunteer nation, those of us who've watched Tennessee football over the years have gotten to know Philip. I've known Philip for, 25 or 30 years, that he continues to recover and gets back to doing what he wants to do and being a dad and a granddad and everything. But, anytime you go any kind of surgical procedure, it's something that you certainly it's always serious. It's never, I don't think there are very few surgical procedures that you have to stay in the hospital for a few days that are just what I would call minor. I don't feel like it's my place to get into what it was or wasn't, but clearly that he needs to go in and have surgery. And Philip's 72, and I think it's when you get to that age, certainly you want to make sure you take care of your business. If there's something going on, you want to get it in there and get addressed. I think probably more than anything, Jason, I hope people will join me lifting up Philip and his family in prayer, and him getting back, as the family statement said, to watching ball and cheering on the ball. So he's been. I was thinking that this morning when I heard that he was in the hospital having surgery. I think it's 43 years that he's been a part of Tennessee athletics in some way, as a player, as an assistant coach, as a head coach, as an advisor to the athletic department, and then AD. I think it's 43 or 44 years. So I always remember Keith Jackson back when Keith was doing ABC's national telecast, and they'd introduce Philip Fulmer, and Keith Jackson would always say, "Philip Fulmer, Tennessee to the core." And that's exactly what he is, man. I keep thinking many people who are more Tennessee to the core than him. Growing up in Winchester and then coming to Tennessee and spending the better part of his life involved with Tennessee athletics.
Chris, I've seen on social media you've been making the rounds throughout the Southeast, stopping at different schools. Two-part question for you. What's kind of stood out as you've bounced around from school to school? And then also as it pertains to Tennessee and Joe Milton, is there been any buzz out there as you've gone from school to school about other schools talking about Joe Milton to you?
There's been, some people, everybody knows that, I'm based there in Tennessee and went to school there. So I do get a lot of questions from coaches, assistants, and even some players about Tennessee. His name's come up. I think a lot of people are wondering, if he's going to be as good as the hype this offseason, and just, what kind of quarterback he will be. I don't think anybody doubts that he's got an unbelievable skill set, can throw the football a mile, and that has really impressed a lot of people this offseason at the Manning Academy. I think more than anything, they want to see him sustain it, as I've said a lot of times, Ben, sustain that for an entire season, which he's not really been able to do, or he's had injuries derail him, or Hendon Hooker beat him out in 5 years. He's been in. This will be a 6 year. I guess did he redshirt 1 year at Michigan, his first year, but 5 or 6 years. And I think a lot of people are more eager, anxious, interested, intrigued to see, what Joe will or won't be, especially in Josh's offense, which that offense has been so good and so dynamic. Really everywhere Josh has been, even before at UCF, exactly what he will be. I think the other thing would be the quarterbacks in this league. I think there's some really good quarterbacks. But, across the board, there's probably more questions at quarterback than there are answers this year in the SEC when you think about it. I don't know if you guys agree, but, you look at Alabama, you look at Florida, even Milton started for the first time. Who knows what Lane's going to do at Ole Miss? I think it will end up being Jackson Dart again, but he's got 10 quarterbacks on the roster. And so there's just a lot of places you look around the league. Kentucky's got a new quarterback in Larry, who I think will be really good. And then the East, Missouri's going to play too. Carson Beck starting for the first time at Georgia. Mertz transferring over from Wisconsin, going to play at Florida. So I think that's the thing is I look at this league and talk to other coaches. You don't have 8 or 9 guys who are established and have played, who've won games and put up big numbers returning a quarterback in the SEC. Even Auburn, Auburn, Peyton Thorne's coming in, transferring from Michigan State. So, as I look forward to this season, I want to see how it all plays out at quarterback for all these teams. Because man, if you're not good at that position, or you're just average, or guys struggle or have a hard time, say if they're transferring in, transitioning, then that's usually bad news for you as a football team.
Speaking of quarterback, Chris, and we're joined by Chris Lowe, ESPN. You mentioned the Ole Miss quarterback room and Spencer Sanders transferring in from Oklahoma State, who was 30-11 as a starter, only ranking behind Mason Rudolph in career wins. What was he thinking going to Ole Miss to now only be? It looks like he's going to be the backup. Like, what did he see hitting the portal and going to Ole Miss?
I think he was ready to try something new. I don't think he was miserable or anything at Oklahoma State. That he just, he'd been there for 4 years. He had a lot of injury issues last year. Last year was a tough year for him, tough year for the team, and wanted to, see what. Sometimes the pastures are a little greener than they look a little greener than they really are, and maybe that was the case with him. And I think he felt like at Ole Miss and the way Lane likes to use the quarterback running the football, that would really fit in what he does. And I'm not saying he won't play. I just think to this point, Dart's outplayed him. I know he outplayed him in the spring. And now I think Spencer had a shoulder or something, so he was not able to be 100% and really show what he could do in the spring. But at this point, I still think it's Dart's job. And that's not to say he won't play, because I think we all know if one quarterback's not getting it done, Lane, as much as any coach, is going to try or go with somebody else. But Swain, I just think that's where we are now in college football. I think if a guy has played a long time somewhere, or if it gets stale, or he feels like it's stale, or he sees another situation that he can go play in and maybe prosper, or just maybe a different system, for a different coach. I think quarterbacks, more than any other position, are constantly going to be looking around. And I think fans and media and all of us need to get used to the fact that every year there's probably going to be a different quarterback at most places. I mean, look at the SEC this year. What would you say of the 14 teams? There's 5 schools. I think I counted this up. I was at LSU. I'm at A&M now. I was talking to Jimbo about this yesterday. I think there's only 5 schools of the 14 that have quarterbacks that are going to start for them that were recruited by that school and signed by that school and developed by the school. I think everybody else is a transfer at some point during their career.
Chris, some interesting news came out last night with LSU and one of their star defensive tackles, Mason Smith. I don't understand how he can be punished this late in the game, but sounds like LSU knew well in advance and knew early this summer. What was your reaction to that news? And then also that's quite the football game with LSU and Florida State. A lot of hype surrounding both teams going into this year. How do you think that affects that game?
Yeah, if I were LSU, I'd sue. That seems to be the big, the maneuver that the college teams are using now. I mean, I'm with you, man. I don't know how do you in this day and age with millions of dollars being paid to players coming out of high school to come to your school, you're going to say we're going to suspend this kid for a game because he was signing autographs back in 2021, mere months before NIL became legal. Come on, I mean. Let's stay home with Tennessee. I mean, Nico is getting millions of dollars to come to Tennessee. You had Bryce Young driving, nice cars around, making $1.45 million at Alabama last year. And this kid, again, I don't know every intricate detail of it. I'm sure the LSU has appealed. I don't know if there's still any appeals process left. Probably not. And Mason Smith signs autographs for money, and you're going to sit him out for a game. I don't get it. I mean, that to me, though, is all part of the inconsistency of the NCAA and the rules and the way they're applied, case to case. And you heard me say this. I mean, you should start comparing which is why everybody, before the Tennessee's case went down, everybody was trying to say, well, this happened this year, this happened last year, or 5 years ago. I'm like, listen, the dumbest thing in the world, and I've been guilty of doing this, is to compare NCAA cases because there's never any consistency, ever. You know, some schools get slammed that you think are not going to, and then some schools get off fairly easy that you think are going to get slammed. Now, it depends on a school's cooperation, et cetera. It depends on, I guess, a lot of things. But no, I'm right there with you, man. I'd say if I were Mason Smith and LSU, I'd be pretty ticked in that game because that's going to be for both teams, man. That's a springboard game, yay or nay. You know, if you're LSU and you win that game at a neutral site, and Florida State goes on to be a top 10 type team, that's a huge feather in your cap to potentially get into the playoff, even if you lose a game somewhere else. So he's the key to their defense, to have that guy, that sort of presence in the middle of their defensive line, who all of a sudden not going to be able to play for you, and a really key opener.
Somebody quick, get Tom Mars on line one for LSU. Chris Lowe, ESPN.
Mars.
what was your reaction? What information do you have for us? Perspective you can share with us when you heard about UT partnering with Food City on the 10-year arena naming rights deal there with Thompson-Boling Arena?
Yeah, that's sort of what a lot of schools are doing now. Football stadiums and basketball arenas and baseball stadiums. You're starting to see more of that. Tennessee, has not really done it up until now. What's it worth? Is it $20 million? Is that right?
Yeah, 10 years, $20 million on top of help with renovations.
I just think that's where we're headed. The schools are going to be looking to more than ever generate money in different capacities. Tennessee's got $8 or $9 million. They got to pony up to the NCAA for this fine. So
yep.
I'd say this is pretty good timing that you sign a naming's right deal with your basketball arena. I mean, I don't have a big problem with it. Other schools have done it. I think it would probably be a little different if it was Neyland Stadium.
Oh,
I think that would not be met. I don't think that would be met. What do you guys think? You think that would be met with a lot of happiness if they changed Neyland Stadium to Neyland Stadium's blankety blank American Bank or whatever stadium?
Yeah, there'll be a lot of blankety blank words being said. That happens.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. So, again, I'm not to say that Tennessee basketball is not a big deal, because it clearly has been. I mean, Brick's turned them into a perennial top 10, top 15 team. I just think football is so sacred at places like Alabama and Tennessee. I mean, think of all the stadium names: Bryant-Denny Stadium, Neyland Stadium, Tiger Stadium. Those stadiums, especially in the SEC, Clemson, that Memorial Stadium, Death Valley. Those names have stayed the same, and I'm sure there's somebody will think about since I get off the air, but there haven't been a lot of naming rights with stadiums in the SEC.
Chris Lowe, ESPN, here on Josh and Swain. Hey, Chris, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Looking forward to our next time conversating here in 7 days.
Hey, Sunday night, though, the Nation, man. It's the Swain, and it's after the AP and Swain show last Sunday. It's Swain and Lowe this Sunday. So
that's right.
You get to see me. You have to deal with me before
next
Thursday. So you better be ready, man.
Yeah, we got big shoes to fill because last week's show was pretty good. So we'll do that, and I'll see you on Sunday, my friend.
All right. See you guys.